away, I'm going to give you 1 minute to talk about your great day. Okay? And then you're going to have 1 minute to talk about what is your really not very great day at all. So you can make it as not great as you like. You don't make it the funeral of your grandfather or something really horrible where like make it something manageable, but make it really a not great day. So this is the day, this is the day when you wake up and you go, right? So the great day is the day you wake up and you review the day ahead and you go, I like this day. This is the day you wake up and you go, So for me, it's often a Thursday, because Thursday at high school, I had triple maths. And that I have carried that through. Thursdays, I can often go, Thursday? Oh, it's okay. Actually, I haven't got triple maths. It's not as bad as I thought. All right. Now, don't start just yet, because the people who are facing me, look at this. Is okay, you can read that. We'll come up and have a read. But other people, don't turn around. Is that clear? Is it shining? Whatever that means to you, okay? No, she doesn't have to look anywhere. She's just going to talk. Okay, so the people who are now going to talk, you just do whatever you like, because your job is to describe your great day and your not great day. And I'm going to give you a minute, and I'm going to do it properly because I'll get my phone. So don't start just yet. Be disciplined. Doesn't do anything else. You're watching with that in mind, okay? And you're playing around with this idea of the quality of your gaze. Okay. All right. So the people who are going to talk have had a chance to think about what they're going to say, and you're going to be disciplined. So hang on, I've got to find timer. 1 minute. All right. On your mark. Shh. Repose. Get yourself sorted and go. What is Kwan doing? Okay. She stopped. I was going to jump on her from a great height. Wait. Okay, now chain. So that now the same person who's talking. Oh, stop. How do I stop it? Sorry. Yeah, against the wall. Okay, now the same person who just described their great day is going to describe their really not great day. Okay, on your marks, get set, go. Okay. Okay, that's a minute. So the people who were being watched, that's all that I wrote on the board. So you can turn around and have a look. I know, it's kind of obvious, but I just, wanted to be a bit dramatic. So the person who was watching, what did you see in their way of being? So it could be the timing, it could be their orientation, it could be their actions when they talked, or were they more flexed, were they more extended, or what did they do? Any of those things. Did their breathing change? What changed from the great day to the not so great day, if anything? What did you observe? Tell them. Now think of, okay, no, I won't say anything. So I'm going to go into a bit of discussion about how we language observations. So feel free to chip in. All right. Okay, we're going to come back into a bigger group and talk about observations. Okay, did you see stuff? Come closer, let's talk it as a bigger group. Or not. So there's two things that I want to draw out of this exercise. We will swap. We'll have a break, but there's two things I want to discuss. Firstly is the content of what you observed, because I'm quite curious to see what you saw. I'm curious to hear what you saw. In a nutshell. Anybody? Oh, box. Oh, good on you, Narayan.
Much more eye contact on the good day compared with the bad day. But in both cases, when Anna was thinking she'd look away, thinking for the next thing, her gaze would go to the distance, and then she'd come back to me when she'd come up for the next thing. Just much more animated and smiley, and eyes widened on the good day compared to the
anything below the neck.
Much more open. Here was more open and upright, more sort of slumped on the bad day.
Right, sounds pretty.
You wouldn't have needed you could have not heard anything she said and could have easily picked the days.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, easy.
Our experience was a little bit different.
It's allowed to be different, similar and different.
But it was very
fantastic.
Yeah, because Alison's face when she was talking about the not so good day was, it was good day first, wasn't it? And her brow went down, frowned and went down, but she was looking at me all the time. She didn't look away at all. She was looking at me all the time. And and as she, in the middle of talking about that, then all of a sudden, all of this part became active, and the muscles just went round and round, and because she was still a lot of the time in the rest of the body. And then when she talked about the not so good day, her brow just went straight up like that. And we can explain why you think that.
Oh, well, we were talking about it, and I wondered whether that's because a good day I was tapping into how it felt more internal, and a bad day I think I was describing conceptually. In other words, these would be the components of a bad day.
Could be. Why is it always very difficult? So yeah,
But it was fascinating.
Yeah, right. So it was different. Yeah. Okay, anything? Kwan?
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, what's his name?
It's not Nathan.
What's your name?
Lucky.
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 Lucky was my patient. And you know what? When he said, good day, his voice lightened. Everything opens up. The eyebrow opens up. But the size of the eye is the same. There's a glow, and the breath is fresh. Like I found myself winning the lottery, that kind of thing. But when it's bad day, his mouth opened, but the voice came out later. And it's like he's dragging a cow to run, like a horse. He just don't even like to think about it.
So you're saying that Lachlan's worst day is when he's dragging a cow?
Yeah. I mean, that kind of voice will drag anybody to a suicidal package. That, not enough energy. He told me he has a sleeping disorder for 2.5 years.
We don't need to go. We don't need to go into what they are.
But he
didn't.
You saw. He didn't tell me then. But he said, not good.
Okay, so we can hear the breath and we can hear the organizing and so on.
And the frown, a very big frown. Yeah.
What happens to your vision when you frown?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all right. You have the right to reply if you want to. That's fine. Yeah.
I didn't was hearing what she's saying, because it disturbed my attention on see what she's doing.
Yeah.
Because I'm not habit of the language.
Yeah.
I saw most similar things, and I also noticed she tilts the head in one side when she was more positive, and tilt the head in the other side. And she was more mobile. Her eyes were more mobile when she was talking about her bad day, more mobile, and more fixed when she was talking about her right day.
Could be the opposite, yeah.
And when I was describing my good day, it was more the content, describing the content. And when I was describing my bad day, I was describing, I was feeling it.
So the opposite to Alison. Yeah. Yep. Any other comments, Julie?
Maybe one thing that hasn't been mentioned yet, because I was working with Jane, is that I noticed she blinked a lot more on the good day, and her eyes were a lot stiller, focused, just thinking, and the not so good day.
Yeah. So, you know, that you could start to say, are there some patterns or not? In a way, not really, because it kind of depends on how someone was processing that day as to what happened, whether they went more still, whether they got more agitated, or whether they got more flexed or more extended, or whether their eyes move more or move less. So it's kind of like everybody's got their own version of that. And the point of that exercise is your skills as an observer. Now, so the second part of this discussion is, how do you express your observations? So I was, and I've got my colleagues here listening as well, around how did you say what you saw? Did you say it in a loaded way, like, oh, Alison, you look like you were just so down in the dumps and blah, blah. No, you didn't say that. You didn't say that. No, that's why I'm saying it, because it's not true. This is not what you said. And that's different to saying, Alison, what I noticed was that when you talked about X, that your shoulders came forward more, which meant that your head carried forward more, and then you'd look up sometimes, and then you would look down, and so on. You see the difference? Do you see the difference? Do you hear the difference in those two comments? There's no evaluation in it. And I actually didn't hear too much evaluation in what you guys said. We heard colourful descriptions from Kwan, so she kind of used metaphor to describe it. Whether that was accurate or not, who knows? But you said what you saw, and it looked like someone was dragging a cow. It's not such a judgment, is it? It's a kind of a quality of movement. Well, yeah, okay. So now this is a really good point that Lachlan's making, is because the judgment of the intent of the language is also in the ear of the beholder. If you follow what I'm saying. So it's not only what you say, it's how it's heard in a conversation. When you're reflecting on observations, it's a two-way street. That's right. There might be an evaluation coming out of the mouth, but there also might be an evaluation sitting at the door of the ear, or not. Does that make sense? So, what does that bring up for you? If you are now going to reflect on how you gave the feedback of your observations to your partner, what was the nature of your language? What was the nature of your observations? So I think what we heard was, by and large, this is what I saw. Not what I extrapolated, not what I interpreted. I mean, you guys did go into the why, but you actually went back to the source to do the why. Yeah, that's fine. You're allowed to go why. Yes, Lachlan. Where's the box, Julie? Lachlan. Not Nathan.
It sounds like talking in the agreeable observation, like something both person can agree actually happened.
Yes.
Or something like that, rather than the interpretation which the other person might not have. Yeah, which the other person might not have been able to agree with.
Yeah. So if I say to you, Lachlan, what I'm observing is your hair is quite curly. It seems curly to me.
It's something I can agree on. Yeah.
Whereas if I say, you know, you look like you got dragged through a bush backwards or something, maybe.
Yeah. I agree.
Or, you know, and that's sort of a weird example because it's not a judgment. Well, it is a bit of a judgment. But, you know, they're sort of clearer and cleaner and crisper. You can,
I think my mum's got a few of those ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that directly from my mother. How did you know? Do we have the same mother? Were you a rough little diamond as well?
We're the same.
Have the same mothers, yeah.
We're all the same.
So we all rough little diamonds, because that's what my mum used to say to me all the time, you are a rough little diamond. Which is kind of nice. You have a diamond. I'm a rough little diamond. Anyway, let's not go. I won't tell you what else she called me. So people who heard the observations, any comments? Is what I'm saying kind of making sense? Did you hear stuff that gave you a bit of a rising? No, what? A rising, like a bit of a reaction. Yeah. So tease out what's kind of easy to swallow and what's not easy to swallow. What made you feel a bit like, oh, I don't like the way you said that?
Oh, yeah. Like, oh, this is stuff I didn't quite interpret that way when I was experiencing.
Yeah. So it was new. So there was that element of I could respond to a very, like if I said to you, you know, what I'm observing is your hair's curly, and you didn't know that your hair was curly, you might go, oh. So I've said it actually in the cleanest, simplest way that I can, and it's still something hard for you to swallow because you didn't know that you had curly hair. Yeah, yeah. So and that's where your ears have to take responsibility as well and own things.
So like when you're talking to another person and trying to share an experience, and like you can play different parts of the experience, but you're sharing it in full or trying to. And it's like, it's really cool with Richard for me, because it's like from day one, like, it's like, I know I can meet this mind, and it's like the minds are met, and it's like, there's in a sense, like an easy meeting. And it's like, you know, hearing his point of view, and it's like, you know, really meets this point of view, but it doesn't just like it kind of reinforces it and makes it more whole. And yeah, it was like it's always interesting for me with that. And sometimes it's hard to share on certain levels with some people, because you know that the mind's just aren't going to meet, you're just going to get frazzled, and it's just going to get you all in a tizzy or whatever. You know, you get it and you just go, oh, I shouldn't have even tried to bother. I should have just kept it to myself and been confirmative within my own self of that experience, and not like now I'm kind of questioning because that person interpreted it like
differently.
That. Yeah, differently, was trying to tell me this.
So could you imagine a time when your mind gets even more flexible so it can meet more minds?
Definitely, yeah. But it's just, I think, particularly when it becomes to your subjective experience and the content and the way that you describe it, more so the way and the deepness and or whatever of it, or the openness of it, sometimes skillfully needs to either hold back or try to use different language. Yeah.
So there's a skill both in observing and giving observations, and a skill and an adaptability in receiving them with different people. And again, that sort of this feeling of being able to meet people. Now, if you're very shy, you have to learn how to do that. You know, it's a learn. Well, for everybody, maybe it's a learned thing.
I was just going to add
you're Richard, sorry.
That was very nice. Thank you.
I'm really having trouble. All these men that can't remember his name. Richard.
The
real Richard.
The first day, we actually did the same task on the first day together, and it just happened that
we did
today.
Right.
Because of walking at the moment. But on the first day when we did that exercise together, I was really deliberate about doing active listening with you. So because you said some quite complex ideas, and I said, well, this is what I heard you say. And I think that really worked. Like, that triggered something for you where you felt heard, you know? So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. So that was one of the keys that's really helped cement something.
That trust.
Trust. Yeah.
Trust is huge.
Huge. Yeah. So, Anna.
I don't have anything particularly profound to say, but just reflecting on my experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I quite enjoyed being fed back what was happening because I was so caught up in the story.
Yeah.
That I had no sense of what I was doing.
And I didn't want you to see that because then you get self-conscious.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it was just really interesting to hear what I was doing because it was not in my consciousness.
So it was new to you.
It was new.
Yeah.
It's fascinating because I find myself so fascinating.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Oh, tell me more.
Hell yeah. 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 I so want to have therapy because I just want to go and talk. I want to go to someone who I'm paying them to listen. And I get to talk about me all the time. I mean, I talk about me quite a lot. And you pay. But I do have to stop doing it sometimes too. But so yeah, it is. We are fascinating. You and I are both really fascinating. Them not so much, but you and me, fascinating. Yeah, it's good. And see, now she's listening with very, very open ears, right? You know, when I said this is a two-way thing, so not only was the person who was giving you observations giving it in a way that was palatable, but you really wanted to digest it. So it's this two-way thing, right? That you weren't listening with really antagonistic kind of receptors going, I don't want to know about me. You know, I'm not, you know, I don't care about your opinion. I don't trust your opinion. You know, let's say there wasn't trust. So then you're listening with ears that are going, well, I don't value your opinion and I'm really going to listen to it in a very different way. Right? So you see, again, it's a two-way street. This Anna and then Simon.
Where going?
Mine wasn't particularly a big point, but
we like little points
from the thing all this way.
Yeah.
But what it was quite interesting to go and see Philippa's face giving me feedback about points that were either perhaps I was going to receive as quite well, or whether I might have received them not so much.
Right.
But it was just interesting to go and see the expression on your face giving me feedback.
Yeah. Because the observed is also observing, right?
And I was just taking it on face value, obviously, because in much same way I had no idea.
Was that a bad pun that I missed in there, that you took it at face value?
Not deliberately.
Yeah. So we are, you know, you can see that a lot of our commentary and observations is around faces. Can you see that you are starting to broaden your attention a little bit? So socially, we look at each other's faces a lot, where we get a lot of stuff from. But our peripheral vision is still picking up all the below the neck kind of stuff. And as Feldenkrais practitioners, you'll see us when we're giving an FI, we are unashamedly scanning all of you. You see it when we're listening to you. We'll be looking down at you and you'll be going, feeling really odd, because we will be. Helen will be asking me something and I'll be going like this. And, you know, we do, because we want actually to look at all of you, because that's what we're interested in, the organisation of the whole person as they're telling us something, right? Yeah, so I'm looking, okay, right, yeah. You know, some of you who've had FIs have experienced that. It's a bit disconcerting, isn't it, when our eyes start roving around? Hopefully we're not doing it in a lewd way, haven't you? Maybe. Well, you find out, and actually we'll start, you know, putting our hands on different parts of you to feel what's going on if our eyes aren't making sense of it. But, you know, just be ready for that. Where's the box? Gloria.
I was just going to say, I've got a lot of feedback about below the neck, because apparently I talk with my hands a lot.
You're Italian.
It must be.
Your name ends in a vowel, so I think that means you are Italian.
Italianesque.
Yes. So, what was the observation about your hands? Did you know?
About hands and shoulders.
Apparently
I was leaning out for the outdoors, in for the indoors.
Is that right? Quite metaphorical.
Yeah.
And was that news to you?
Well, no.
Confirmatory.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this there's a lot we will continue to talk about this feedback, because it's feedback and feed forward, because it is so germane to our work. Because if you think about what is our job as Feldenkrais practitioners, is to help people to get to know themselves better, and to know themselves better in a way that they like themselves. So it's not just this, you know, I don't know, Melody, but those glasses really don't suit you, you know, and, you know, that's, you know, that's not in a way that you're going to like yourself more. And it's not like I'm going to be Pollyanna, but how can I phrase feedback is, you know, have you ever tried different glasses? What happens when you wear different glasses? You know, those sorts of things. I mean, that's more of a suggestion. It's pretty clumsy. But if that's what we're about, you know, Zoran said it this morning in the ATM, when we know what we're doing, then we can do what we want. And our job as practitioners is to help people to learn what they are doing. You know, who they are, how they are, what they do, etc. So we're giving them feedback in various ways. Sometimes it's simply with our hands, and sometimes it's with our voices, so verbally. And both ways have to be kind. So that requires the person who's receiving the feedback to want to receive it, which means in a way we have to be invited to give them feedback, right? So now if they're coming to your class and they're coming to you for an FI and stuff, that in a way is a bit of an invitation, because they're asking for it. They're asking for it. It's not like that. But they are, you know, that's the beginning of the invitation. And you clarify that, you know, by doing a bit of a test. You know, you do a little bit of feedback and see how well able they are to take feedback. And then they'll have some blind spots and they really don't want to know about that. And maybe you even experienced that yesterday when you were putting your hand on certain different parts of people, and you got the sense of that really meant something to them when your hand was, say, in the small of their back. When you put your hand on their knee, it's like it's like it didn't happen. Or you put your hand on the foot and I went, oh, you know, do you know what I mean? You're starting to respond to their feedback to your feedback, right? So this is a system. And you're starting to get a sense of how willing they are to receive, what they can hear, what they can receive by way of feedback. I'm really talking in circles, and I could just go round and round and pull you down into a death spiral. So I'm going to ask my colleagues, Zoran and Jenny, do you have comments about this? Do you have views, Jenny?
Yes.
Don't you hate Feldenkrais trainers? They're so, no. Yep. So perturbing.
It is a system, and it's a constantly learning system, because even when we say things in the cleanest possible way, sometimes we're not aware of the history that belongs to that person that's tuned the ear keeper.
Yeah, so Lachlan might actually be really sensitive about his curly hair.
Yeah.
Because someone called him a girl when he was at school, and I didn't know that.
Sure. So, you know, my guess is curly was probably a fairly safe descriptor that is unloaded. Loretta, have you ever had comments about your hair? Yes. And so I know that culturally, you know, people with red hair have often been teased. So I would be a whole lot. That's all right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of my colleagues were teased horribly as kids. And I think not so much in Australia, it's not such a big thing, but in some other countries, you know, there's a whole history of it means something that's not complimentary. So despite our best intentions, we will stuff it up from time to time, but there is that constant noticing the feedback on the feedback on the feedback and adjusting to see if we can rescue the situation and restore the sense of trust and flow of communication.
Yeah. Yes.
I've had only one FI, and it was overwhelmingly a really great experience.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. She did say a couple of things which I think kind of fits in what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because afterwards I went, if I ever do this, I probably won't say that.
Yeah.
Because
I'll
tell you what,
No, it's kind of silence in here.
Yeah, well, she said, "There's hope for you." Yeah. Oh, she went, "Oh, there's hope for you." Yeah, and I went, "What? There was no hope." And I just didn't know what, because she was towards the end of the session, then something comes in. She's helping, and I just wanted that explained. I just wanted to have more context around that, because I didn't realise I was being so hopeless up until that point. And the other one was, and then she said, "There's a little girl in you. There is a little playful girl in you," or something. I thought, "Oh, that's lovely. There's a little playful girl in me." But then, what was I at the start? Just really grouchy old woman or something. So it was just a couple of things that for me didn't kind of work. Even though I must say the overall thing I really got a lot out of. But I kind of felt there was a mystery there of sort of what that related to somehow. What was unsaid.
It's metaphors in particular. I mean, hope for you, it's not a metaphor. That's just clumsy, maybe. That's me being judgmental. Metaphors are a double-edged sword. I use metaphors a lot when I'm teaching, and I tell you, it gets me into mostly it's okay because it helps to illustrate, and it makes, my aim is that it helps people to find meaning in what I'm saying, because there's a different illustration, but it can get you into seriously hot water. So you know, and you don't know necessarily, because you don't know the person's history. So you do, all of this is judicious. Doran has the box.
I got the box. Okay. I'm just following up from this morning. When you know, that question, when you know. And that question about knowing is layered. You know more than you can say. You know more than you can say. So from the year dot, as soon as you're able to see with some clarity beyond yourself, you are already picking up so much information about people, spatially, expressionally, that you know heaps. And some of it you're able to report, so especially the spatial parts, you know, where things come back. And some of them just hit you straight in the gut, and you respond to it. So as you go down the track and you're able to articulate more and more what it is that you're observing in behavior, because that's what we're talking about, not interpreting behavior, but observing the behavior, well, the richer the domain becomes for you to investigate with the other person. Yeah? So that's what happens. But yeah, whether we like it or not, we are already interpreting. So then it becomes, how can I do this well? And tell a person something, or share with the person something that's useful for them. Yeah.
Gloria, and then Anna.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I do counselling, and one of the things, the hardest time for me when I usually stuff it up or I beat myself up afterwards, is when I'm saying goodbye at the door. And it's that last comment or last little exchange when your guard's down, you're not in the situation anymore, you're not, and you just, something comes out of my
Is that
mouth.
when you say something like "There's hope for you yet"?
You know, that's, you know, you know, and it's just that last. So so it's important to be mindful all the time until they're in the car and away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and probably our biggest undoing in Australian culture is our sense of humour. And I've got a very dear friend in South Africa, and one day said to me, "Susan, you do have to be careful. Humour doesn't necessarily travel well." And I, you know, he's always bloody right, this guy. And that really landed with me, because obviously I've got a very what would you say, marked sense of humour, and I have to be very careful with it, because I could say something flip like "There's hope for you yet," and if someone knew me really well, they would know that it's just a flip comment. But if people don't know me well, or I don't know the conditions in which they're hearing it, it's, you know, my flipness can be very off-putting. And I was teaching in Bhutan, and this our guide, we had, you know, you have to have a guide there. He acted as a guide and translator and everything. He very quickly picked up my sense of humour, so much so that he started paying me out. Because, because I would say something, you know, he was beautifully slim and fit and, you know, could walk. And, you know, such a high, I was puffing, you know, all this sort of stuff. I'd just say something about, oh, do you know, you're so fat and unfit. And the first time, I could see him looking, and then I realised, I said, oh, you have to understand Australian sense of humour and mine. We often, if you are seriously not fat and unfit, that's what we'll say. So, like, if you are thin and fit, we'll tease you. We'll just say the opposite because you are so clearly not that. So one day when I said to him, oh, you know, you are so attentive, like, because he'd noticed that I needed some water, and I said, that is great. You're so attentive. You noticed that, and I didn't really know it myself. And he went, so are you telling me that I'm not very attentive? So he flipped it back on me. You know, so sometimes you're lucky and people will get your sense of humour, but other times you really have to be careful. Anyway, that's, you know, so humour can be a force for good and a force for evil. And what I'm hearing, probably that practitioner was being light-hearted, but it's clumsy. You know? Humour can be very clumsy. Clumsy means like when you're juggling balls and all they fall on the floor, or you break stuff. You know, you're trying to be careful and you drop things and you bump things, and it's, yeah, clumsy. Not well organised. Yeah, has a different outcome. So, yes, sorry, Anna.
It's probably a comment that might apply for later in the training, but with the FI, as you're saying about, you know, feedback to people, I found like in FI sometimes it can trigger or release emotional stuff. So I guess you've got to be, I mean, that's going to be another dimension, but also I'm quite sensitive, and I can kind of sometimes, like, I do reflexology, like when I'm doing someone's feet or something, I might suddenly feel really anxious or something, or, you know, start feeling a bit of what they're feeling. And I just wonder how you guys have gone with that kind of thing, whether, I mean, it's an individual thing depending on the person, or whether that
yeah, you know, I have a personal view about that. And when I was in my 20s and going through what I now call my questing phase, so I was questing a lot, you know, shopping around for modalities. And for a while I was working with a colleague who did stuff where, you know, you had to put a little invisible boundary between you and the person you're working with so that you didn't, you know, catch their bugs, kind of stuff. Not really, but, you know, do that thing. And I had this frame of reference where I thought that happened. So it happened. And then in Feldenkrais, I don't have that frame of reference, and it doesn't happen. I don't take on your shit. Your shit's your shit and my shit's my shit. And we're a system. So when you and I are working together, so you can see, is that about this method, or is it about that we've set up a framework in this method where that doesn't happen, and therefore it doesn't happen? I'm looking at my colleagues, because we all have to process this in a different way. So I'm not saying that frame of reference that I was doing in my questing phase was wrong. It was absolutely at the time, yes, because I'd think someone would come in with a bad back and I'd have a bad back. Now I see people with bad backs, let's say, I don't get a bad back. So there's a lot about intention and about boundaries. We'll talk a lot about boundaries as we go, because this is a question of boundaries. Yeah. Jenny and then Lockie. We're being quite nice to you this week, answering most of your questions. This will stop.
I think when we become a system with another person, then we're sharing the same breath and the same soup and the same emotions and so forth. And so I will get a sense of what someone's feeling. But because every emotion has an associated physical organisation or posture, I don't necessarily have to get caught into the posture of the emotion. So I can kind of be aware of it without embodying it. And because my role is to hold a posture that is connected to the ground and is helping to connect you to the ground, often those emotions just kind of flow through the system and don't have the same kind of effect on either of us as they would in a different setting.
Yeah, I think that's right. And you'll realise in FI, it's very much, we're always asking, is this me or is this them? So when we're pushing or moving something and we're feeling something different, you're constantly asking yourself, is this me or is this them? Like, is it my organisation or their organisation that's causing this thing that we're feeling? And I think that's the other antidote to this, because we are constantly reaffirming who I am and who you are. And it's very much that difference between empathy and sympathy.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar.
Yeah.
Gestalt therapy, it's, confluence and differentiation and your ability to switch between those. Because to have empathy, we need to be able to put ourselves in another person's shoes and have that sense of confidence with them.
Yeah.
But also, it's nice to just go, oh, when is it me and when is it them? And be able to hold on to something or let it go.
That's right. Yep.
Not like you said with the hearing before. It's how we choose to hear it. It's like they say, with curly hair, well, what doesn't she like curly hair or something? Or I say, oh, she has an idea that this is curly. I just say it's my hair. Or,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So think back to, does Dora want to say something? No. So yesterday we did our first kind of exploration where you, in a way, entered into somebody else's space by putting your hand on them, which is what we're kind of talking about. And then you talked about it afterwards, and we let you free range in your observations. If you reflect back on the way you expressed an observation, so either the person who was watching or the person who was feeling or the person who was being felt, if you reflect back on that conversation, can you remember how the words landed in your ears or how you issued the words? Reflect back on that. Yesterday? Was it yesterday? Yeah. So words land, don't they? They land in your ears. Yeah, like Orion. Yeah, that's a bit of jargon. Sorry, Kwan. So how did, so things can land heavily or they can, land gently. So did the words land gently? So did you hear them easily?
So
how did you receive them? Thank you. Yeah.
How did I receive? Well, first I was moving. I felt I was exploring, and each move that I repeat, same pattern, it changes in the flow. Like I'm just trying to get used to a new part of my body, like new discovery. And the hand touching at some point did not disturb my exploration. But when a hand is put in a position where I could start to feel if my spring can be extended longer, I found it was like blocking my passage. Okay, so then it sort of changed my thinking pathway to explore. Should I go to the right side or should I go to the middle? That kind of thing. So there was a fast mathematical calculation in the mind to not feel relaxed as myself moving.
And if someone had their hand on part of you that you really didn't like, how would you tell them? How could you give them that feedback?
I said that hand was blocking my passage, but my participant said, "What's wrong with the hand here? You can equally move."
All right. So,
but I didn't feel the same.
Okay. So we can think about that dialogue without getting, into judgment either. Is there a way, when you reflect on that, is there a way that you could have expressed your experience that didn't invite a defensive response? I'm being a bit judgmental here. It just sounded to me like that.
What is that in Chinese?
Maybe we won't do that then.
No, can you just rephrase that? I think I could answer you, but
whoever was with Kwan yesterday, Philippa, do you mind if we dissect this? Is this all right? Okay. So you got that feedback.
Sorry, what Kwan had said to me, she said, "Your hand is too hard."
Okay.
So I lightened my hand. She said, "You're blocking my movement." And so I lightened my hand.
So I would suggest, rather than putting you on the spot, Kwan, another way of saying that would be your hand feels lighter here and heavier here. Okay, so then there's no judgment, it's just a comparison. So comparators are really good in language to give somebody feedback, because then they've got something to compare it to. So, so without getting defensive, listening to my feedback, okay. So I'll interrupt again. What you gave her was advice, not feedback. So you told her what to do, and that's advice. It's not feedback. Feedback is, this is what happened. But that's feedback, right? Advice is feed forward. It's telling her what to do. Is that, I'm being very pedantic here, but it's really important that you start to think about the difference in these things. There wasn't any dialogue. There wasn't any dialogue during the process. No. That may be so. Maybe so.
Hello.
So see now, see how this gets really a minefield. All right. So how are you listening? Are you jumping to people's defence because you think I'm attacking, or all right? So language is a virus, right? Philippa.
Well, what was interesting was in the conversation. Oh, sorry. In the conversation afterwards, we talked about the need for a responsive touch, and how when somebody, as a new toucher, how do we learn to move with someone? Yeah, because part of the part of the response is to be able to, of the toucher, is to move with the mover. But if the movement is, if the mover says they're being blocked, then like, where do you go? I mean, the only thing you can do is not touch at that point, because the touching seemed to be.
Yeah. Now there might be a little bit of a subtle shift in the language that might help make that more palatable. And it's very simply, I feel blocked. I feel blocked when your hand is there. Okay, so if I said to you, I feel blocked when your hand is there versus you're blocking me. All right, how does those words land differently in your ears? All right, I feel blocked. That's my experience. That's okay. I feel blocked. And then they might, it's less likely. That's right. We're on a continuum here, aren't there? There's no guarantees in language. You know, people are going to choose to hear whatever they like. Yeah. So can you give the feedback in that invites further conversation is exactly the point. Like, I feel blocked there. And then you can have this conversation, which is feed forward feedback about, well, how about I try this? And how about I try that? Or how about you try this? Or so on and so forth. So the feedback, feed forward business becomes a mutual, kind, respectful conversation, and not a you're right or wrong sort of stuff. So Richard first, and then Lucky, you chuck the box. So, you know, we're not going to say anything about a girl throw, are we, girls?
Just on the.
No, none of us going to say that. None of us going to say that.
On the.
Yes.
On the question of how to have responsive touch.
Yeah.
In our group, there's a couple of times where people struggle with having hand on the forehead.
Yeah.
Either in this sense here was holding it too much, so it's constraining the movement.
Yep.
Or being back here, it's really hard to push against.
Yeah.
You know, to actually, so even the lightest touch, and I'm thinking about it biomechanically, that there must be fulcrums, and there would be, if there's at the end of a lever, there'd be front side of the lever or the back side of the lever. And so if you're wanting to have the responsive touch, at least the hardest part so far that we found was the front side of the end of the lever. That's where all the work has to be done. So
there's a lot of biomechanics in being responsive, and there's a lot of sensory feedback. So for me to sense you, Melody, I have to be able to sense myself. Now, I say this a million times, and I'm sorry to actually bring this up now because it's a tricky concept. But I actually can't sense what you sense. I can only sense what you're doing using my senses. So my senses have to be super sophisticated. Why are we spending several years of your life on the floor learning to sense yourself so that you can sense others better? Because you can't figure these things out that Richard's talking about from a theoretical point of view. You'll be able to feel them.
But from say,
yeah,
I had my hand on Loretta's forehead on the way down. She was saying to me, be softer, and I thought I went softer, but then when I experienced it myself in the same kind of thing, I was like, oh man, I can really understand what you're saying. But so there's also something about our own degree of experience of all the different situations, I believe.
That's right, exactly. And again, why are we corralling you in this room and forcing you with guns at your head to do this with each other all the time? Because here's the thing, my friends, is your feedback to each other, you have responsibility for each other's learning in this instance, right? So the quality of your feedback, so it has to be accurate and kind, is going to shape and on, well, yes, honesty is not always the best policy. No, sometimes you know, yes. It's got to be accurate. So let's just not say honesty. Let's say accurate. Okay.
We can set. Sorry.
Yeah.
Part of my work is community development. You know, so it's about like negotiating things in groups and how do we form effective relationships together. And one of the things that you do in groups is you can kind of you can set a rules of engagement. You know, I'd say that boundary talk. But so I mean, I would say, well, I'm pretty comfortable. I'm doing this work with anyone. You can say anything in all honesty to me.
So very open
I'll
ears,
be as open
right?
as I can.
Big wide open ears.
If it challenges me, then we'll figure a way through it. You know, but I think that helps to kind of know how far you can go with one another.
Yeah. And look, the thing is, when you're having these sessions with each other, where you're giving each other feedback afterwards, as you get to know each other, now some of you already made a connection where you feel like you can be really open with each other. Others, that's going to take a while. You're going to work, all of you, with each other, because if we start seeing little cliques happening, we're going to bust you up big time, right? Because you're not going to learn anything. You're just going to, you know, reinforce what you like. So you will work with each other all the time, and we're going to swap you around a lot. So looking around at each other, you know, this is kind of a bit of a commitment. No, right on the first day, we had a bit of a commitment around the, you know, what happens in the room kind of stays in the room unless it's de-identified. And now we're kind of committing to each other to take responsibility as a system for each other's learning, right? Are you up for it? Yeah, over there. Oh, sorry, Lockie.
I was thinking if anyone's interested in the actual learning how to speak and hear in that way, like look up some of the non-violent communication.
Are you the non-violent communication person?
Yeah,
all right. I remember reading in an application, I couldn't remember who it was.
Yeah, so
all right.
But sorry. Look up Marshall.
The non-discernible communication, actually.
Non-violent communication in terms of distinguishing what an observation is versus, say, an evaluation. And even on the hearing side, because we're obviously going to get patients who are not going to speak to us in this particularly attentive way. And we'll say, oh, you know, that was great, but, you know, that doesn't really tell us anything. You know, it's our abilities to go, all right, be curious and go, all right, can you tell me what it was in your experience that you felt great about? Oh, you know, when you put your hand here.
Yeah.
Or even if they say something like, you know, you're blocking this, like, you know, how do I imagine they're experiencing that? So, do you feel stiff when my hand's there, or do you feel like you got some pressure?
Yeah.
Like,
okay. So ways of questioning.
Yeah, and hearing.
So it's come up a few times now, and we haven't kind of addressed it, that you're a very rich and diverse group with a lot of skills that you bring. And in some ways, we kind of have asked you to leave it at the door because we've made you be relentlessly Feldenkrais. However, you know, if we're going to be together as a group on this journey for 3 years, we want to harness those skills and knowledge bases in ways that are respectful and useful and congruent with what we're doing here. So we might, you know, so we've got people who've done nonviolent communication, NLP, we've got counsellors, psychology, blah, blah, blah. We've got a lot of scope in the room to kind of explore this. And then Zoran's and Jenny's, my job is to kind of, if that needs a bit of, you know, kind of massage back into the Feldenkrais context, then that's fine. So we will draw it. Now, one of our colleagues, Alan Christel, is a non-violent communication lover, and he used to make everybody in the training programs buy the book. So I've got the book on my shelf.
Who is that, sorry?
Alan Christel, and the book is on my shelf as I speak.
Non-violent communication.
And you know, you can listen with jackal ears or giraffe ears, and it's a very interesting framework. So there's a lot of frameworks, and Julie alluded to this. Will we cover every framework known to man? No. Right? The world is a very rich place, and you're here to do Feldenkrais, and what can be drawn in, we can do, but we're not going to draw everything in. No. And some things were just frankly deride. Like if you start talking dom and delicato to me, I'm just going to slam you into the floor. That's how it is. There's some things that I just can't tolerate. That's all right. You know, I'm just joking. I'm just telling you there are limits to how open-minded I can be. Yeah, go for it. No, you can put the paper bag over your head. Sylvia.
In the yesterday work we did, I was asking to me, how can I say to them nicely and without judging? And I tried to use a comparison.
Yes, comparison.
Because I saw they were afraid and touching without too much confidence.
Yeah.
And trying to help, I asked, if you touch something you like, for example, an instrument, you're a musician and you have your flute, how do you touch your flute?
Yeah.
And just to switch this imagine of something you know very well because you touch every day to also the body of the other person.
Yeah.
It's very, this response came me in the doing the question, how can I be kind?
How can I be kind? Yeah.
Yes.
You can't go past kindness.
Because it was in the first moment I said, what is she doing?
Yeah.
What is she?
Yeah. Yeah.
When I am wearing an observer, not when I've been touching.
Yeah.
Just observing the situation and trying.
So that's a really good illustration of how you can reflect on your own responses and then you take responsibility for them and you frame them. So we'll have one more comment and then you can have a tea break free of charge.
Just going to say it's an interesting concept. Given from yesterday's class, obviously, if you're as the patient, if you're leading
client, student. Actually, we call our students. Yeah, or pupils.
It's a different connotation, I suppose, to place your hand posterior on somebody that's flexing.
Yeah.
Because then, in essence, I guess the connotation of being led is being behind.
Yeah.
Somebody else is leading you.
Yep.
To then placing or co-pating, I guess, anteriorly.
Yeah.
To follow the lead of somebody when, in essence, you're in front of.
Yeah, sure.
Again, is a different kind of, it's a different sensation from the person who's, otherwise you get too heavy, you get too soft.
Yeah.
You've got to move obviously in time. It was interesting as well that, as you were saying yesterday, that you actually move with the person versus statically.
Yeah.
How much of a difference that then enriches the movement.
That's right. And the other thing that with we've talked a little bit about, you know, the dorsal and the ventral surfaces, and you all were really articulate about, you know, the sort of tummy surfaces and the back surfaces, and the tummy surfaces feel more vulnerable. So for you to now have that experience, when you put your hand on somebody's tummy surface, it's irrespective of the movement or the direction of the movement, chances are it might have a slightly land differently than on the back. And you think about our sort of social touches. I mean, yeah, we do the handshake, but you know, the way you guys do it, so it's not sort of tickly, you know, you make it really firm. So there's something about firmness and surface. So if you're wussy on a belly surface, that's got a very, if you're wussy on a back surface, it's okay. Wussy means lacking in confidence, like what, you know, sort of I'm a bit like hesitant or not confident on here. That's very different to being hesitant or not confident on the front, for example. So you start to think about the sort of the sociology of the body, if you like. I reckon you need a cup of tea. Did I deliver that in a way that was kindly? It's evaluation, yeah.